everyone, welcome to our video tutorial for this DNA cat scarf that you can see Melba wearing here. So this is one for the science lovers. So I hope you enjoy it. Please like, share and subscribe, and we hope to see you soon. Thanks. Bye. Okay, so to make this double strand DNA cat scarf, if you're making the version that I'm making today on camera, you'll need two colours. And so I'm going to show you what I'm calling a summer version and a winter version, but they're interchangeable. You could make the summer version with one colour, you can make the winter version with two colours. But today I'm making a summer version with a cotton acrylic blend in two colours. And this would be about a 4-weight yarn. Now I'm also going to talk to you about making what I'm calling a winter version. So this one here I've used a bulky yarn, and I used a 10mm crochet hook, I think, from memory. And this is just one colour, and so I'm calling it a winter version. This is a wool acrylic blend, so it's a nice chunky look. Okay, so this one's obviously more simple. There's less steps involved. This one will be changing colour and, a couple of extra steps. So I'm filming this one. It's slightly more complex, but you can adapt it, and I'll talk about it as we move through. You can adapt it to this more chunky version. Okay. You'll need a crochet hook that corresponds to your yarn, and I'm using a 4.5mm today. You'll need a darning needle, which probably you'll want a slightly pointier end than normal, because we'll be doing some sewing. We'll be sewing the two ends of our scarf together, and you might just need either a different needle for sewing or one with a slightly pointier end. You'll need some scissors to snip your ends, snip off the excess. And a tape measure is a good idea. If your cat's with you, take an accurate measurement of his or her neck circumference. If you don't have the cat with you, or for whatever reason you can't take a measurement, then check in the description box below. I'll include a guide to, a range of standard cat neck circumferences, so you can work off that as well. But it's always ideal to have an exact measurement if you can, and then adapt the fit and the size of your scarf around that exact measurement. So let's move on to the stitches and techniques you'll need. Okay, so here's the two versions of this scarf. So whichever version you're making, you'll need to know how to slip knot onto your hook, how to create a chain, how to single crochet, double crochet, triple crochet and quadruple crochet. So I think some people call that the double triple. For me it's a quadruple. Okay, that's these tall stitches here. If you're making the two-tone version, you'll need to know how to change colour, and I'll show you how to do that. From there, it's just some basic sewing techniques to sew the two ends of the scarf together, and weaving in your ends to finish this off. So it is beginner friendly. If you need to brush up on any of these techniques before you get started, then please do. Otherwise, let's get into it. Okay, so to get started, take your first colour, and it doesn't matter which colour you choose to be your first colour. I've got my grey, and you'll make a slip knot onto your hook. Okay, and now we're going to be chaining in multiples of 12. So that can be a little bit tricky to size because it's such big multiples, but do your best. How this will work is you'll take your cat's neck circumference. You'll be adding anywhere from about 8 to 20 centimeters on top of that, depending on the hook size that you've got, the yarn that you're using, how much give it's got in it, a little bit how your crochet technique is, whether it's tighter or looser. You'll have to kind of work this out for yourself, remembering to chain in multiples of 12 plus 1. Okay, so we'll be doing multiples of 12, and actually let me show you how this will work. So this area here is this repeating sort of pattern here that gives us the DNA bases, where that takes 12 stitches. Okay, and so we'll be working in a multiple of 12, and then we've just got one extra as a turning chain. Okay, so You'll have to work that out for yourself. Now for Melba's neck circumference, she is about 24 centimeters around her neck, you know, plus or minus about half a centimeter. She is comfortable with things being slipped over her head, so I don't need to, you know, and make a huge allowance for that. You might need to. Just keep that in mind. So I think with this hook size and this yarn size, I'm going to be around the 48 chains mark, I think, around there. So yeah, that's a multiple of 12, and then I'm going to add my 1, so that will be 49. I'm going to see how that is. I'll perhaps even just put my chain around Melba's neck, just make sure that there's plenty of room, because just keep in mind that we're going to have, once again, this twisting effect, so it you know, chews up a bit of length. Okay, so you want a good amount extra, like I said, anywhere from 8 to 20 centimeters. Okay, that's a kind of rough range on top of your cat's neck circumference. So I'm going to go ahead and make my foundation chain, and you do the same. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm going to go for multiples of 12, and then I'll add 1 on the end as a turning chain. So you go ahead, do yours, and I'll meet you back once I've done mine. Okay, so I've made my foundation chain, and I've actually, after trying it on Melba, 48 chains wasn't quite enough, allowing for the twist. I don't want this one to sit super tight on her neck. I want it to be a little bit looser. So I've gone actually to the next multiple of 12, which is 60. Okay, so it's going to be, you know, a little bit looser than I perhaps wanted it to be, but, you know, with these large multiples, you kind of have to compromise a little bit. So I've got my 61 chains there, okay? And you'll have your multiple of 12. Okay, so for row 2, you've got your extra chain as a turning chain, so we'll skip that chain. Now, what I'm going to highly recommend that you do is that you work into the back of the chain. So you work into these little, what I call the third loops in the back of the chain here. Okay, so at the front of the chain, you've got the V. When you flip the chain over, you've got these little third loops. So I'm going to recommend that you work into those. And if you, look, I mean, it's not a massive deal if you don't want to, but you'll get, you know, you want the full double strand effect. And actually, just to show you, what it does is it makes your one side the same as the other side. Okay, they both look like stitches if you work into that third loop on the back of the chain. Okay, so it gives some extra symmetry to your project, which I think is worth the little bit of extra. It's not really a hassle, but it's always easy to work into the front of the chain. But I think it's worth it here if you want to. So we're just going to place single crochets starting from the second chain from the hook, skipping our turning chain, and we're just going to place single crochets, 1 in each of those third loops at the back of your chain, all the way down. So row 1 is just a row of single crochets, 1 in each chain. So I'm going to finish that off on my end. You do the same, and I'll see you shortly. Okay, so we've got our first row just of single crochets. So we've got, just to show you on the previous one, we've got this first strand of DNA. Okay, so now we're going to start making the bases. So you'll keep working in color 1 if you're making the two-tone version. So chain 1 and turn, and you'll place in the first 3 stitches, you'll place 1 single crochet. So 1 single crochet in the first 3 stitches. And so this is these steps, regardless of which version you're making, okay? I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear earlier, but regardless of whichever version you're making, these first steps are the same, okay? So 1 single crochet in the first 3 stitches. Now we're going to make a twist. So we're going to twist the work towards us, so we're working along the bottom of the chain. Okay, so we're going to double crochet, so just make sure that you skip those first 3 and you're working. It can be a little bit tricky, but just twist that towards you and work your double crochet into the next stitch, which is actually the bottom of your chain. So double crochet in there, and then you're going to chain 1, skip 1, so you're working now along the bottom of the chain, and you're going to triple crochet. So you've skipped 1, you're going to triple crochet in the next chain along. You're going to chain 1, skip 1, and then you're going to quadruple crochet, so yarning over 3 times and quadruple crochet. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay. And then chain 1, skip 1, and then we're going to mirror what we've just done. So we're doing a triple crochet, yarn over twice, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, chain 1, and then skip 1 and double crochet. Okay, so that's our little, so we've got our strand, and this is our little base pairs. Well, it's half of the base pairs if you're doing this this two-tone version. Okay, and then you're going to go back to the beginning, 3 single crochets, so 1 in each of the next, oops, that's split, let me just try that one again, 1 in the next 3 chains, 1, 2 and 3, and then we're just going to be repeating what we've just done here. So you'll flip your work over. Now just make sure that you're going into the next stitch, so we're going back up onto the top of our stitches, double crochet in that one, so just turn your work and get that in there as best as you can. And make sure you pull this one a little bit tighter than you normally would, okay? Just to make sure that it's a nice and tight stitch. And then you'll start that whole process again. Chain 1, skip 1, triple crochet in the next stitch. So you've skipped 1, and then your triple crochet goes in the next stitch. And then, oops, let me just pull through those other little strands. There we go. Chain 1, skip 1, quadruple crochet, yarn over 3 times. And these quadruple crochets can be a little bit fiddly. There we go. But just make sure you're getting them, you know, good tension on them. They're not too loose, but also not too tight. And then we're mirroring what we've just done, so chain 1, skip 1, back to our triple crochet, and then chain 1, oops, very splitty, chain 1, skip 1 and double crochet. So that finishes off our next set of base pairs. Okay, so you're just going to repeat that all the way down. So you'll do your 3 single crochets, 2 and 3, and then you'll twist your work once again and work back down along the bottom of the chain. So you keep going until you get to the end of your first row, or end of your second row, and you'll finish off with a double crochet. Okay, so keep on moving down, and I'll meet you when I get down the end. Okay, I'm just up to placing my last stitch, which is my double crochet in that very last stitch, and that finishes off that little section of base pairs. Okay, so that's what we've got so far. We've got our little half strand of DNA. So now, if you're making the bulky version like this, we're just doing this one set of base pairs. If you're doing the 2-color version, then you'll be making another set of base pairs. Okay, so if you're making this version here, you're going to move straight on to making the second strand of strand of the DNA. Okay, so I'll put a timestamp where you'll skip forward to at this point if you're using a bulky yarn and you're just making this one strand, one set of base pairs. But if you're coming with me and you're changing color to make the second set of base pairs, you'll take your color 2. Now actually what I need to do is undo undo half of my last double crochet, because we're going to change color at the end there. So the way I change color is I just wrap my yarn over the short end at the back, the working end at the front, and then I just finish off that double crochet with my new color. Okay, and then just pull on all the strands to make sure it's nice and tight in there, and we're going to chain 1. Actually, we're going to chain 2, I beg your pardon, and turn. Okay, just for height. It doesn't count as a stitch, just for a little bit of height. So in this two-tone version, we're making our, I don't know if you can picture DNA, it's got the strands and then it's got 2 base pairs that kind of meet in the middle. Okay, so we're gonna sort of, you know, stylize that with our 2 colors. So you're just going to work the same, exactly same as that previous row. So in that first stitch you've got a double crochet, and then you'll chain 1, skip 1, and then you'll work your triple crochet. So this time there's no twisting, okay? No twisting in this round. You're just going to work in each stitch. You're just going to work the same as the row below. Okay, so you're just going to repeat row 2 for this two-tone version. Okay, so you can see you've got the 2 base pairs meeting in the middle there. So just go ahead. So you'll work, just keep working. So no twisting, as I said. You'll just keep working along this the top part of your work with the corresponding stitch. So let's just finish this off, this first little section off together. So that's my triple crochet. And then to finish this off, I've got chain 1 and I'll double crochet where the double crochet is. And then we've got our 3 singles. 1, oh, excuse this yarn. 1 and 2 and 3. And then we go back to repeating the pattern, double crochet. Now sometimes what happens is this kind of curves over a little bit. You might just have to lift it up to get into the stitches. Okay, so just mirror what you did in row 2. If you're doing this double strand version, this double color version, two-tone version, keep going for row 3 and place your stitches above each other all the way down the end. And like I said, no twisting. Okay, just work along the top of the work. Okay, so I'm going to finish my row 3 and I'll see you shortly. Okay, so I'm just putting my last 3 single crochets in this row. And that completes row 3. So you can see we've got our little DNA strand if you like twist it up. Okay, so now if you're making the bulky one-tone version, one-color version, then you're meeting us here. Okay, so we're going to just chain 1 and turn, and then we're just placing 1 single crochet in each stitch or chain all the way down, and this is our final row. Oops, let me just go back. That one, my yarn's just split there in a kind of obvious way. So you're just placing 1 single crochet in each stitch or chain space to mirror your first row. Okay, so 1, so in all of those stitches 1 single crochet, and then when you get to the chain space you'll place your 1 single crochet in the chain space. Okay, so go ahead and finish this final row 1 single crochet in each stitch or chain space all the way to the end of your work, and I'll meet you there. Okay, I'm just finishing off my last single crochet there in my row. Oh, that's split yarn, never mind. In my row, what is it? Row 1, 2, 3, 4. Row 4. Okay, so we're pretty much finished, whichever version you're making. So as you can tell, the extra row, so in the bulky version you've just got the 3 rows, so the 2 strands and the base pairs, and in the two-tone version you've got 2 rows in the center here. Okay, so that's the only difference. Now you're going to yarn over and pull through, and you're going to leave an amount for sewing. And I should have mentioned before, but you want, when you cut off your first color, you want to leave an amount for sewing as well, okay? So you only need a little bit extra than a normal tail, because it's obviously just you're only sewing this tiny area in each color. So I'll just snip that off there, and I'll snip a little bit extra off with my color 1, and then just tighten those ends. Now you can weave in these 2 tail ends that you won't be using for sewing if you want to do that first, but I'm going to go straight to the sewing. So you get to decide how you want this to twist. So it'll kind of naturally twist, but you can twist it as many times as it's twisted in the work, and then join these two ends. I'm just going to cut off those two little strands that got out of the yarn. It's distracting me a little bit. There you go. Okay, so we're just going to sew so you want obviously the right color, the corresponding colors to match. Let me just pull those nice and tight. So you want obviously the corresponding colors to match. Okay. And because this end is a single crochet end, and this end is a double crochet end, they will be just slightly different in size, but you can sew it enough that you won't notice that. Okay, so just let's take, which one's going to be my sewing one? I'm going to leave these tail ends on this side, okay? Because probably I'm going to flip it, or maybe not. No, let's put them down actually inside. The tail ends that I'm not sewing with, just get those out the way. And then I'll take my first tail end. So sorry, what I was trying to say there is just put your other tail ends on the side that you want to weave them in. Now, it's just a simple stitch, and just make sure you're lining things up, because there's that slight difference in size between the two edges, but not enough to make any difference. So just sew just a basic stitch, so you're sewing this first color together. So actually, sorry, I kind of skipped over how to twist it. You twist it however many times you want to twist it, okay? You've just got to twist it in the way that, actually, sorry, let me pause for a moment. I'm going to unpick that. I'm actually going to sew it with one more twist. Sorry, I've skipped over that a little bit. So I actually wanted to twist it one more. Yeah, I want to twist one more because I want my DNA to be nice and twisted. Yeah, apologies for that. Anyway, you will have twisted it where you want it to twist. Okay, and let's just get those strands out of the way. So you can twist it more or less, but I want mine quite twisted because I want the full DNA effect. Okay, and now we'll go back to sewing this. Just needed one more twist on the end there of my work. So, yeah, back to the sewing. So we're just going to sew sew this as neatly as possible. Just allowing for that slight difference in size, as I said before. So you go ahead and do this. You probably don't need to watch me doing this. I'll just finish off with that first colour, and then I'm going to get my sewing end of the other colour and work it. Obviously, if you just, just one colour, it's much easier because you don't have to do all this changing colour. Not that that's a big deal anyway, and then you'll just sew your other side, the other side of this join, using your, actually for me this was colour 1, so using your other colour. Just sewing those edges together. And just make sure you get it as neat as you can. I always use these tail ends as an opportunity to clean things up as well. So what I'll do is I'm actually going to go back down that side. And I'm just going to, I could have done it with this first tail, but I'm just going to bring that edge a little bit further together. A little bit closer together. There, like that. So you want to make your join as neat as possible, and I'm going to do that the same actually with my white strand. So use this hand sewing opportunity just to tidy up your ends, and make any little neat finishes that you need to. So yeah, what I tend to do is I just even up this. See how it's a little bit, because we're finishing on a double crochet one side, a single crochet on the other side, just means that there's a little bit of height difference. So I just use my tail ends to just clean that up. See how that's already much better. And then you'll weave in your ends on the underside, so you might need to push your tail through, and I'm just going to do that one more time to tidy that side up. And then weave in your ends, and I'm kind of assuming you know how to do this, but you'll just go through some of the loops of the stitches on the underside of the scarf, and you can double back, you can go down just once if your stitches are quite tight. I'm going to go through just a little bit more, and then I'm going to double back. Just don't double back exactly where you've come from, obviously. Just go either skip to the side or skip that last loop and go back along where you've come from. So I'm going to finish off, I'm going to weave in all those other ends. I'm going to make sure that my join is as tidy as I want it to be, and then I'm going to come back and we'll finish off together. Okay, so I've woven in all of my ends and I've neatened up my join there. You can see that's pretty nice and neat. Actually, I've just got another little strand to cut off there. So you can see that that's where my join is. It's it's pretty neat. Okay, so there's your DNA scarf. Isn't that cute? So there's the two-tone version, and I've got the single tone version there. You can see obviously this is meant to be more of a bulky winter version, and it's actually a larger size, and this one here is a more delicate summer version. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. It's a little bit of fun. So yeah, please send your photos along to catventurers.community@gmail.com, And you can also tag us on social media at catventurous.crochet. I would love to see the colors that you've used. I've used, really neutral colors here, but you could use, really bright colors and make this a very bright and fun scarf. So, like I said, one for the science lovers. And yeah, I hope to catch you soon. Thanks very much for watching. Bye. Hi everyone, and welcome to our video tutorial for this DNA cat scarf. Get down.